Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate, to discuss more. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time here on Live Now from Fox to join us.
Thanks so much, Christy.
All right, well, my first question here, I got a lot of questions for you. My first one, though, this is a 2-month ceasefire, right? So what comes after that expires?
Well, first things first, we have to see if the ceasefire holds. I mean, this whole war with Hezbollah started when Hezbollah decided to join Hamas on October the 8th. They launched hundreds of rockets against Israel. I read a stat today that showed they launched, I think, 30,000 rockets and missiles and drones since October the 8th against the state of Israel. So there's a long way to go. If it maintains, if there is a halt, then perhaps we can move to the next level of negotiations. But right now, the ball's in the court of Hezbollah. Hezbollah must pull north of the Litani River, which is about 18 miles north of the Israeli border. They have to cease their production of weapons. They have to cease transferring weapons from Syria into Lebanon. The Lebanese army is supposed to take over for whatever they're worth. But right now, it's very, very early. It's very hard to predict what's going to happen after 60 days. Israel only wants peace, but Hezbollah started this war. It's a war we didn't want. But the 60+ thousand residents of Israel who are not currently in their homes, who live on the northern border, must be allowed to return to their homes. It has to be safe for them. We cannot have another October 7th on their northern border. So that is first and foremost.
All right, and then you heard me say, as I brought you in here, that President Joe Biden saying his administration is going to make this renewed push for ceasefire in Gaza. But do you really think that we could see that anytime soon? I mean, he's only in office for another month or so, 2 months.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, right now, essentially, Israel is basically buying for time. You're talking about those 60 days. What happens after 60 days? The president leaves office and President Trump takes over. Right now, Israel is facing an embargo by the Biden administration in terms of arms. That's one of the reasons the prime minister agreed to the ceasefire. We're low on arms. Secondly, we have to deal with the Iranian threat directly. Iran is striving for nuclear weapons. And thirdly, to talk about Hamas, Hamas is now isolated. Hamas realizes that basically they're in this on their own. Of course, they're backed by Iran, but Hezbollah is no longer a player. So this is a good opportunity for Israel to potentially get back the hostages, or rather force Hamas to release those hostages. And will there be a ceasefire with Hamas? I mean, they've rejected every single ceasefire opportunity until now. Remember, they're the maniacal terrorist organization that murdered 1,200 Israelis on the 7th of October, carried out many, many suicide bombings in the 90s and the early 2000s. So that's who we're dealing with. So Hamas cannot be trusted. Israel has to continue to put the pressure on Hamas through military might in order to create that ceasefire. That's been the plan all along.
And this has been a long time coming, this ceasefire. There were multiple attempts to reach a deal. What was it about this time that was able to pass, so to speak?
I think the main thing right now is twofold. Number one, as I said before, Israel needs the arms, which the Biden administration is basically embargoing, not sending us the essential arms in order to continue the fight against Hezbollah, number one. And secondly, we are afraid, Israel's afraid of the next 60 days, and perhaps that the Biden administration could in fact assist in passing an anti-Israel resolution at the Security Council. So with that threat, with the lack of arms, the prime minister saying the troops also need a break, the goal of isolating Hamas, and the focus on Iran, all those factors coming into play as to why there's a ceasefire right now.
I did also want to ask what the future of this looks like for both Hezbollah as well as Hamas. We've been hearing more about Hezbollah more recently, but Israel's military has already killed a lot of the top leaders. So can you just talk a little bit about what we're going to see in terms of Hezbollah moving forward, but also Hamas?
Yeah, so Israel has done an amazing job of decimating the senior ranking officials of both Hezbollah and Hamas. Hezbollah, we had that beeper strike, and we took out Hassan Nasrallah and many of the top officials and high-ranking commanders. So hopefully, right now, Hezbollah is reeling from the blow Israel delivered to them, and Hamas is also reeling. We took out Khania, we took out Sinwar, we took out the heads of that terrorist organization, and the goal ultimately, and the most importantly, is to make sure that neither of those organizations are a threat to the state of Israel. As I said before, we cannot have another October 7th, and we can't have the rockets. I think it's over if you combine Hezbollah's rockets Hamas's rockets, also the Houthis firing rockets against Israel, Iran directly attacking us. You're talking about over 60,000 missiles, rockets, and drones over the last year. So we cannot be in a situation where that is a daily reality in this country. So until we get there, I think the war is going to continue. Hopefully, we'll come to some sort of agreement on the hostages, something that makes sense, but it has to be done through pressure. Hamas has to be pressured in order to release our hostages. There are 101 Israelis, some of them with American citizenship, by the way. I think it's 7 U.S. Israeli dual citizens who are being held in the dungeons of hell by Hamas. They have to be released. It's been over 400 days. It's way, way too long. Enough is enough.
I did want to ask quickly, too, about, Israel did have some concerns with the ceasefire. One of those issues that was remaining was this Israeli demand to reserve the right to act should Hezbollah violate its obligations under this deal. So did we see a resolution of that?
Yeah, so from what I understand right now, Israel does have the ability and the right to go ahead if Hezbollah does not uphold their end of the bargain, if they don't return to the Litani, if they continue to attack Israel. From what I understand, Israel will need to consult with the United States on, I don't know if it's an issue-to-issue basis, but overall, we'll have to consult with the Biden administration for the next 60 days in order to strike when necessary. I mean, we already had today, day one, we had certain Lebanese entities, I don't know who they were, approaching the vicinity of Israeli troops on the northern border there, and Israel had to fire warning shots. So that's day one of the ceasefire. Who knows what day two is going to bring? Who knows what's going to be in the next 60 days? But the prime minister made clear, if Hezbollah violates the ceasefire, Israel will retaliate, and we'll do everything we have to do in order to protect our citizens.
All right, Josh Hasten, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add about this before I let you go?
No, that's really it. I think we've covered it. I mean, again, Iran is the head of the octopus. People have to remember that Iran is controlling all of these proxies all over the Middle East. The Houthis who are firing on American troops, in addition to Hezbollah, Hamas, and also the militias firing out of Iraq. Iran is the head of the octopus, and Israel has said it will deal with it alone if necessary. We have more confidence now with the Trump administration coming in that they will be on our side and help us in defending the state of Israel and really the Western world against Iran. So that is the main focus with Hezbollah, Hamas, all those other proxies. The head of the octopus must be dealt with sooner rather than later. They cannot go nuclear.
All right. Always appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.